Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. How are you doing today? How are you coping? Do let me know. Give me a comment down below and let me know how you're getting on, or follow me on social media and send me a message if you need to chat. I'm more than happy to try and support and chat to anybody that needs it. I'm kind of up and down, just trying to kind of take one day at a time, and yeah, it's hard, isn't it? But plodding on I think is the word I would use. Today I'm back with another video for you, and I thought I would chat a little bit about how to cope with your chronic illness during the current pandemic. Coping with a chronic illness is hard work at the best of times, and at the moment I know for myself and for many others it is becoming more difficult. You know, obviously a lot of appointments are cancelled, surgeries, treatments that people have waited a long time for have been cancelled or are becoming a lot more difficult to access. There's a lot of problems with accessing medication and GP appointments for sort of non-essential things, and so that is making chronic illness pretty difficult. And I thought it might help to just chat about some of the things that I've been doing to try and manage my chronic illnesses, and also like friends that I know of, and also other sort of articles that I've read as well that I've picked up. If you kind of are new to my channel and you haven't watched before, I'm Jenny, and just to give you a quick potted history, I have a genetic condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which causes a whole host of different symptoms: pain, dislocations, chronic fatigue, and it affects a lot of my internal organs as well. I also have POTS, gastroparesis, intestinal dysmotility, bladder dysfunction, mast cell activation syndrome. I've had problems with seizures in the past. I have asthma. I may have missed something out, but that kind of gives you an idea. So I have quite complex chronic health problems, which, as I said, are difficult to cope with at the best of times, and during a pandemic are definitely even harder. And I know I'm not the only one that's kind of feeling that. So yeah, I thought I would just talk about what I've been doing and hopefully either give some help to somebody, or even just to help you feel a little bit less alone in what we're going through at the moment. I thought it was just something that would be helpful to be talked about. So I'll just go through some of the things that I've picked up, and hopefully there'll be something there that might help. So as I said, at the moment a lot of appointments are being cancelled or postponed. A lot of appointments are being changed to video calls. It is harder to get an appointment with a GP because they're kind of trying to focus on sort of urgent stuff, and also with not wanting people to kind of go to the surgery, a lot of stuff just can't be done at the moment. I know for me, I've had treatments that have been cancelled, possible operations that have had to be postponed, and it is difficult, really difficult, especially when you've been waiting a long time for those things, or that those things are things that kind of manage your symptoms and keep you with some sort of quality of life. It's very difficult to see all of that suddenly be taken away. I guess the first thing that I wanted to say was that I think it's important for us to remember why this is happening, and the fact that, you know, these appointments are being cancelled or postponed to try and keep us safe. Obviously a lot of the kind of focus needs to go on the virus at the moment and looking after the large number of people with that, but also, you know, doctors don't want vulnerable people going into hospitals and doctors' surgeries where they could potentially be more at risk of catching the virus. So I know this is something that I have had to grapple with, and I still do grapple with it sometimes, because sometimes your head just goes to a place where you just think, oh, this is so unfair, like, why can't I get my medical treatment? Why can't I get my medical care? Why am I getting worse? And I think it's fine to have those thoughts and feelings, and to be angry and to be frustrated and to be sad, because I think those are all very normal feelings. But I think it can be really helpful to be able to get to a point of acceptance about the situation, not necessarily of, you know, feeling happy with what the situation is like. And yes, I think things possibly could be organised a little bit better, but I don't want to start going into that because that is a huge topic. And obviously I can only speak from like my little perspective. I don't have all the facts, so I don't want to start going into that. But I think something that has really helped me is just getting to a point where I think, you know, they're not cancelling these appointments to try and, you know, make me more ill or to try and put me in a negative position. They're doing it because they're in an impossible situation and they're trying to look after us and to stop us from potentially getting more unwell. And it's quite difficult to get to that conclusion. And as I said, I kind of move backwards and forwards between, you know, feelings. But I do just keep reminding myself that, you know, this is for the best interests, hopefully, of most people. I mean, it's very difficult when, you know, you've potentially had a life-saving treatment stopped or something that could really, like, you know, improve your life. And everyone is going to be very different and have very different feelings about that. But generally, I just keep trying to tell myself that, you know, this is a new situation to all of us and people are, on the whole, trying to just do their best. So I try not to feel angry with like the hospitals and the doctors because I know that they're just trying to do their best. And yeah, there may be kind of issues that can be talked about, you know, and that need to be voiced at some point because there has been a lot of like bad treatment of disabled and chronically ill people. But it's kind of finding the right time to talk about those things and in the right kind of places to kind of start making a difference and to make changes in the future. But for me, to kind of get by day to day, I think just developing a kind of acceptance of, okay, this is how things are at the moment. It's not by any means perfect, and yes, my health is suffering, but it could potentially suffer even more if things carried on the way they had been and I was put at risk of getting the virus. So that's what I've been telling myself. As I said, I know it's not easy, but I feel like I need to say that because, yeah, it's just an impossible situation. Okay, so now on to some more practical tips. So I think it's important to look at each appointment, procedure, surgery that you have kind of got coming up or that should have been happening, and to try and have a conversation with your doctor or medical team about what would be safest to do, whether it would be safest to postpone it or whether it would be safest to carry on with the procedure or treatment or whatever it is. I think that needs to be a conversation that happens between you and your medical team. Obviously you will have ideas of whether you think that particular thing needs to go ahead, but I think it's really important to try and discuss it with somebody. I know that's not the easiest thing to do at the moment because it's not that easy to get in touch with people, but you know, I would just try and phone a secretary or write a letter just so that you're getting your kind of point of view across. If you are told that that appointment is going to be postponed or cancelled, whether it's an appointment or an operation or whatever it is, I would contact the doctor. Like, if you're worried, if you feel that, you know, it's fine, it's kind of like a routine appointment and it's just a checkup and you don't feel worried about that, you know, being postponed, then that's fine. But if you're concerned about something being postponed, then make sure you speak to somebody about what those risks might be of having that postponed, because it's going to be really important, I think, to acknowledge any risks for postponing something and work out, you know, whether the positives outweigh the negatives, and working out, you know, do I risk possibly going into a hospital where I might catch the coronavirus, or do I risk not having this procedure and the kind of side effects or whatever it is that might come with that. So those are the kind of conversations I think you need to be having with your medical team. And for some, those might be quite a lot of conversations. I know for me, I have had a lot of appointments and procedures and stuff cancelled and postponed. So there's a lot of conversations that I feel like need to be had, and it is quite draining. So just try and prioritise and go for the ones that you're like most worried about first. And yeah, just make sure you're chatting that through, because you know, these are important things and this is your life and your medical care. So you kind of need to understand their thinking, and they need to understand how you're feeling as well. And hopefully there will be some sort of compromise depending on what the appointment or procedure is. But yeah, make sure you're having those discussions, and you know why something's being postponed or why something isn't being postponed. So if you find that an appointment of yours or a procedure or an operation does still need to go ahead, that your medical team think that it's important for it to still go ahead, talk to the team about any risks that is going to kind of entail about going into a hospital, and also talk to them about ways that you can kind of manage those risks and try and reduce them as much as possible. You do this pretty much, especially if you're having like a procedure or an operation, you will always do a kind of risk assessment, because you'll get told about kind of any kind of possible complications and stuff like that. So this is just like an extra thing to add into it. But also if it's kind of appointments and an appointment has to go ahead face to face, it's just another level of like risk assessment that needs to be done for that. I just think it's important to acknowledge those risks and to try and mitigate against them before you like get there, because then you go prepared, your medical team are prepared, and you have got a little bit more peace of mind that you're being kept as safe as possible. So again, like conversations and communication is just, I think, really important at the moment. So something that is being done a lot at the moment is changing a lot of appointments to phone or video call appointments. Certainly with my GP surgery, that is like the norm now. You can't make appointments to go in person. Pretty much everything is over the phone or by video call, and I have done video call appointments and they've been pretty good. So if you are being told that something is being postponed or cancelled, or if you've got something coming up that you're not sure what's happening about, contact whoever it is, like a secretary or the GP surgery, and ask if it's possible for that appointment to be changed to a phone appointment or to a video call appointment. Obviously that's not going to be possible for everything. I've had friends who had texts to say that their blood test appointment had been changed to a video appointment, which is, I mean, very clever. I didn't know you could do a blood test over video, but obviously there was some like issues to be ironed out and stuff. So obviously stuff like that can't go ahead through video calling, but if it's a routine checkup, or if it's talking to a consultant or something like that, a lot of this can be done over the phone, and it just saves it having to be cancelled or postponed as well. I had a phone appointment with my leg surgeon. Ideally I need to go up to London and see him because I've got complications with my from my surgery, and he needs to examine me, but that's just not safe at the moment. So he rang me and we came up with a plan, and that's kind of the best we can do at the moment. So yeah, pursue whether appointments can be changed to like phone calls or video calls. Obviously it's not going to work for some things if your consultant has been kind of moved to a different role to help on a ward or something like that. They may just not be able to do those appointments at the moment, but it's worth checking, because a lot of doctors and physios and occupational therapists and mental health professionals are now offering their services over the phone. So yeah, if you're worried about appointments being cancelled, see if there is that option to have them changed to a virtual appointment. If you're going to be having a virtual appointment with your doctor or other health professional, it can be really helpful to send information over to them before the appointment. I know you can't do this with everybody, but sometimes you are able to send an email through their secretary or a letter, and certainly I've found it quite helpful to be able to do that before. So I might put like my list of medications, I might list the bullet points of things we need to discuss, and it just means that they're coming into the appointment kind of prepared to talk about what you need to talk about. As I said, you can't do it with everybody, and some medical professionals, don't offer that kind of service, but see if it is an option, because talking on the phone is a bit different to talking to somebody in person, and I personally find it can help to kind of do that little bit of extra preparation beforehand. So I don't know about you, but I find when I'm talking on the phone, I often forget a lot of what has been said, and I seem to forget more stuff on the phone than I would in person. I don't know why. I mean, I get more anxious talking on the phone anyway, so I'm not sure if that's got something to do with it. So one thing that you can do is to record a phone or video call if you think that would be helpful. What I would just say is make sure you're asking permission before you do it. So, if you're talking to your GP, say to them, can I record this call before you do it? Because it's important to kind of ask for that permission. But yeah, I've certainly found recording phone calls in the past has been quite helpful, just because, as I said, I tend to forget stuff, especially if you're going into a lot of medical detail. Sometimes there's a lot of big words and stuff in there and sort of directions and stuff that you just end up forgetting. So yeah, recording it can be really helpful. And then something else that I will often do, especially during a phone call, is to take notes. I've done this, I've had a few different phone appointments now, and I've taken notes for a lot of those, because one of them, they wanted to do some medication changes, so I needed to make sure that I kind of noted those down, but also just general points I like to try and note down. You will often get a letter after the appointment, kind of writing what you've spoken about in the appointment, but I think it's important for you to make the notes as well, because sometimes things get missed off letters. And I know I had one recently where the doctor said that she would pop something in the letter for my GP so that she knew about it, but that hasn't come through in the letter. But because I've written that down, I can kind of follow it up and make sure that that information gets through. So I mean, I do this even in face-to-face appointments, but especially for phone appointments, just make sure you've got a pen and paper handy and jot down kind of anything that's spoken about. So most people by now will have probably had their letter or text to tell them if they need to shield for 12 weeks. However, some people have been missed off the list because their conditions are a little bit more rare and haven't kind of been looked at yet. And also there has been problems with the post and things like that. I know for me, we got a phone call yesterday from the National Shielding Helpline, and I haven't had a letter or anything telling me to shield. I mean, I pretty much have been anyway, but now we're kind of having to check, follow up to try and find out whether I should have had a letter or not. So if you're not sure about anything, even if you have had a letter and you're not sure how things could affect you, do talk to a doctor, whether it's your GP or a consultant, or get a message through their secretary to just ask kind of how they think that it could affect you, and if there's any precautions that you need to be taking. I know for some people, if they get any kind of symptoms, that they need to kind of contact a doctor a lot earlier. So it's important to know what your medical team think about your risks. Yeah, certainly if you've got asthma or something like that, you need to be a lot more careful with if you start to get breathing problems. So it's really important, I think, to follow this up with your doctor so that both of you know. I know a lot of my friends have had letters from some of their consultants kind of stating the reasons why they need to be careful and how the virus could affect them at their chronic illnesses and could potentially make them more unwell. So if you haven't had anything like that, or if you're not sure about something, then do ask, because it's an important thing to understand and it helps you to kind of manage your health a lot better as well. It's also worth it, if you possibly can, speaking to someone to find out what you should do if your condition flares up. Again, this is going to vary a lot between different conditions. I know certainly when my gastroenterologist sent out a letter saying that I had been discharged for now, it said on there that if you had Crohn's or colitis and you had a flare up, there was a phone number to ring. So it's important to know about things like that. But with any other conditions, if you've got a flare up of chronic pain, or if you've got a flare-up of asthma, or whatever your condition is, it's important to know what you should do, because things are very different at the moment. You may not be able to go down your usual channel of kind of what you would usually do in a flare-up. So it's important to speak to your team to find out what kind of things have been put in place, and also whether there's any kind of sort of like rescue plan that you need to be following. So yeah, I mean, for me this is going to be slightly difficult because I would have to contact a lot of different consultants to find out. So my best person to kind of liaise with, I think, is my GP, and then if something particular flared up, I could then go through that particular consultant, but other people will have sort of maybe just one chronic illness, and so we'll have like a particular pathway to go through. So yeah, again, I think it's just better to plan ahead before you get that flare up, so that if it happens, you're not stressing out there and then. You know exactly what you've got to do, you know who to call, you know how to get an appointment if you need that appointment. And it's just another way of like preparing to try and manage your condition when things are a lot more difficult at the moment. Another piece of advice that I would give for managing your chronic illness at the moment is that you might need to put your repeat prescription requests in a bit earlier. I know certainly where we are, pharmacies are really busy, and also because they're limiting the number of people that can go in, things can just take a little bit longer. It can take a little bit longer for medications to get made up. There are some shortages of medications, so it's kind of important to kind of give that little bit of extra time to make sure that you're not running out of medications. It's also finding a balance, because of the medication shortages, a lot of GP surgeries won't give your medication too far in advance. So it's kind of finding a balance between not stockpiling but making sure you've got enough time to get the medication you need. And then related to that, with some medications, your doctor might allow you to have a larger prescription each time. This is going to vary a lot depending on what the medication is, but some doctors may give you, so you may ordinarily get 3 months, they may say you can get 6 months at a time, just so that you're not having to request it so much, and so that you're not having to go out and collect it so much or get someone else to collect it for you. Again, as I said, you know, this is going to be very varied depending on what your medication is and whether there's a shortage of it. But it might be something that you could discuss with your doctor to see if there are any medications that you could just get more of a supply of at the moment, just to take the pressure off, again, like putting that request in, but also with you having to get the medication. And then another way that I have been managing my chronic illnesses at the moment, and I know a lot of other people are, is our doctors do something called an EConsult. I don't know if it's called that everywhere else or whether like places have different names for it. These are mainly for non-urgent issues. However, I think certainly with some urgent issues you can still put them through and you get quite a quick response. Obviously if it's an emergency, it's not the right thing to use, but for everything else it's been quite good. Basically it's like an online form that you fill in. It asks you about your symptoms, about the particular problem that you've got. It can be a little bit long-winded. Certainly the one we have is quite long-winded, but it means you're not having to sit on the phone for ages, and also because a lot of stuff is going through the GP phone lines at the moment, it's just taking like, you know, one call away from that, and hopefully making their lives a little bit easier with not having sort of phone calls backing up. And then it saves that phone line for somebody who maybe can't use the internet and really needs that phone. But yeah, I've used the EConsult service a lot, and I would say put it in on a Monday evening, and on the Tuesday I will get a response, whether that's a text or an email or a phone call. I've certainly found it to be really good. You can send pictures, they will do video calls with you. So it's worth finding out what your GP surgery are offering at the moment, because yeah, that certainly worked well. I know our GP surgery aren't really dealing with anything that's not urgent at the moment. So I've kind of had to put a lot of my stuff on the back burner. I'm keeping a list, and yeah, we'll kind of deal with that stuff when I'm able to. But I've had a couple of urgent things and the EConsult service has worked really well. I haven't been sat on the phone for hours trying to get through, and yeah, I've heard from a doctor probably within 24 hours, so it's really worth looking into. And then the last thing that I would say about managing your chronic health problems at the moment is to just be kind to yourself. It's a really difficult time for a lot of people, and you know, as I said, when you've got a chronic illness anyway and things are hard, anything like this is going to make them even harder. And I don't know if, like me, I'm finding that my physical health is not as good at the moment, probably because I'm stressed and anxious about what's going on, but also because I can't access my normal treatments and you know, medical help. So I am struggling more with my health, and I just think it's really important that we be kind to ourselves, that we cut ourselves a bit of slack, that, you know, if we do feel like we're going backwards, you don't beat yourself up too much about it, because things are just different at the moment and it's not something we've ever been through before, most of us. So I think it's just important to, yeah, give yourself a break. And if you're needing to sleep more, if you're needing to nap more, if you're needing to use more painkillers than you were before, just don't give yourself a hard time, because things are hard at the moment and we just need to find whatever way we can, don't we, to try and manage our health, to try and kind of find some kind of quality of life and to just try and get through. So yeah, don't give yourself a hard time, be kind to yourself, reach out for support if you need it from the chronic illness community. We're kind of all in this together. We understand what this is like for people with chronic illnesses, and I think at a time like this it's good to be together and to share kind of what we're going through and to not judge other people if they're struggling, and yeah, just look after ourselves. So I know that sounds a bit cheesy, but I think it's an important thing to say at the moment, because I know certainly I'm struggling to be kind to myself, and I do think I need to be, yeah, nicer to myself. So that's all my sort of tips and advice for managing your chronic health problems at the moment. I really hope that it's been a bit helpful, whether there's a tip in there that you have been able to pick up to use, or even if just someone talking about these kind of problems makes you feel a bit less alone. I hope that you found it helpful. If you have enjoyed the video and you'd like to see more, please give me a like and subscribe to my channel. Also hit the notification bell, that means you'll get notified every time I upload a video so you don't miss anything. Leave me a comment, let me know how you're managing at the moment. Have you got a chronic illness and how are you finding it? Are you struggling to get appointments? Are you struggling with your kind of health getting worse? Are you managing okay? What kind of things are you doing to kind of help yourself? Do share them below, because I've obviously listed a few, but there's probably other stuff as well, so it'd be good to kind of have some comments going through to kind of talk about how other people are managing. Also let me know if there's any other videos you'd like to see me do, whether that's anything else about the situation we're in at the moment, whether it's about mental health, physical health, or something completely different. Do let me know, because I find it really helpful to hear what you guys want to see. Also follow me on social media, my links are in the description below. I'm mainly on Instagram, sometimes on Twitter as well. I'll pop them up here as well, and it would be really nice to see you over there for a chat. And yeah, just a little bit of support and distraction, because I think we all need that at the moment. And I will see you in another video very soon. Take care and stay safe. Bye.